Hello and welcome back to the Jet Press Podcast. My name is Justin Fried. That's Mike Luciano. We're here recapping Jets Week 5 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Mike, I don't know where you want to start with this game. I assume you might be pointing at Aaron Rodgers, pointing some fingers at Aaron Rodgers. I just want to say from the start, I don't think it's fair to just point every finger at Aaron Rodgers. But the Jets are a bad football team. They're a poorly coached football team. And the more things change, the more we think things change, the more they actually stay the same. Because, we talked about this before we went live, that you could have kind of, copy pasted this from a game that the Jets played last year with a different quarterback under center. I don't think that it's necessarily a one-to-one comparison, but they lost in similar ways. I don't know. Where is your head at right now, Mike? How are you feeling?
The only reason the Jets got Aaron Rodgers was to not have today happen. And today happened. And for that, like we can blame as many people as we want, and there's tons of blame to go around. But you got to look at number 8, and you got to say to yourself, like, we're not getting – this wasn't even the last year in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is a decline from that. He's going to be 41 this year. And I think we got to now reckon with the very real possibility that irrespective of whatever happens this year, that he may not be back next year. Because I assume if the coaches are gone, then that means Hackett is gone, and that probably means he is gone. So that's where we're at. I don't think that's like an emotional take right afterwards. I think that you got to reckon with that. And feel free to join us. You can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there, and we're on all the podcast platforms and all that. But I guess we got to start 23-17, which in a vacuum sounds good because we expected blowouts.
Yeah.
And we got a competitive game where they almost got up off the mat down 17-0 and almost pulled it off. And the defense has been under fire. I know that the points are what they are, but this game, despite the 23 points, actually technically 16, I guess, if you want to count the pick 6, you couldn't ask for any more from them. Injuries everywhere. Sauce gets hurt. Quinnen Williams got hurt for a play. Michael Carter was out. It felt like the Eagles game where they were just duct taping guys together, and they figured out Darnold looked very bad for most of the game. He was not the MVP Sam Darnold that we thought we saw in the first few weeks. Played very poorly. Really, the only sustained offense they would get was when Justin Jefferson would either A, have a big play, or B, get a ridiculous ticky-tack call. Some of that, not to be like Jets fan mad, but some of them were.
No, objectively, some really bad officiating in this game. And I never want to be the guy that points fingers at the refs for an outcome of a game, and that's not what we're going to do here. The Jets lost this game because they deserve to lose. But it's inarguable, in my opinion, that there were some really, really questionable calls against the Jets secondary.
Let's call a spade here. Like, the Jets lost by 6, and they had 3 interceptions, one of which was a pick 6 where he threw it directly at the guy. And another one was clean pocket, steps up into the throw, and just whoosh airmails him by 10 yards.
Dude, I love this from Jacob. Jacob on YouTube says, can Jets fans have anything good in life, or is this just it? How much more suffering do we have to go through before something good happens? Jacob,
apparently more. There's your answer. Apparently more.
I wish we had the answer. And as Mike alluded to, you got Aaron Rodgers to change things. Like, that was supposed to happen. You were supposed to change the narrative. You were supposed to change the entire narrative around this inept losing organization, and you haven't. And here's the reality of this current Jets team, Mike. They're not a bad football team. Like, they're a bad team in some ways, but they're not a bottom 5 team in the NFL. But they're not nearly as good as we thought they could be. And I think a lot of that you could point to the coaching staff. You could point to maybe the roster just not being as good as we thought. The reality is this is a very mid football team. And a mid football team lost this game in a very mid football team way. And I don't think the Jets are going to win 10 games this year. I also don't think they're going to win 5. I think they're probably
going to make the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs at this stage right now. I think they're probably an 8-win football team. And that's not good enough, especially when you look
at one win better than Zach Wilson had.
Right, especially when you look at the roster and you compare it to last year, and it should be a lot better. It should be. The players should be better. The team should be better. Aaron Rodgers is better than Zach Wilson. And even, look.
You could have fooled me today.
He threw the ball 54 times. That's not good. You're not winning a football game with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 54 times. The Jets have no running game. The offensive line did him no favors. Allen Lazard dropped about 4 or 5 passes. Aaron Rodgers did not play well in this game. I just think it's silly to to just minimize it. Just
well, see, that's where I take issue with some stuff. Is that not no like how dare you, Justin?
Go throw hands. Let's go.
But,
let's scrap.
Like we always joke about, you could have just played a show from last year. I mean, with Zach Wilson and with young quarterbacks and quarterbacks that maybe aren't living up to their potential, who are like kind of mid-tier, trying to get to that fringes of top 10. That's when I'll buy into, the scheme's doing him no favors. The offensive line's not very good, which, by the way, the offensive line is okay. It was really bad today, but that's a good offensive line in the NFL.
So many of their issues are miscommunication. And not to cut you off. The Jets, I think the Jets have an above average roster. I don't know if they're top 5 roster, but I think they have an above average roster, probably pushing top 10. Their coaching staff's bad. And we've both sat here and defended Robert Saleh and this coaching staff for a long time. And it sounds so dumb to get on Saleh's case after the defense, like the effort that the defense just had today. But it's just the entire coaching staff, man. Like I think the Jets are an above average football team with a well below average coaching staff. And I'm pretty out on Saleh. Obviously we're out on Hackett. We never were in on Hackett. Yeah. We're out on Keith Carter, whoever you want to say. That's the biggest issue, I think, with this Jets team is the coaching staff. And unfortunately, that's not changing.
They're a below average staff, an above average defensive staff, and an unplayable, untenable offensive staff.
And that's not even just Hackett. It's Keith Carter too, because again, so many of the offensive line issues are miscommunications. It is a miscommunication nightmare. And it's not even just the offensive line, it's the whole offense, whether it's Rodgers and Garrett Wilson not being in sync, or even the last play of the goddamn game where Rodgers throws a 50-50 ball to Mike Williams and he's not ready for it, he's not expecting, and he barely even turns around to make a play. That's miscommunication. I don't know who we want to fault that. I don't know if that's specifically Rodgers, if it's Williams, if it's the coaching staff. The offense is a miscommunication nightmare. And that has been by far its biggest issue. And that's what's so frustrating, Mike, because if you squint really hard, you see the vision. Like I can see the vision with this offense. And there are flashes.
Well, I can see what they want to be, but they're not close.
Exactly. I see what they want to be. I
saw what the Jets wanted to be with Zach Wilson. They weren't close.
I honestly didn't see that. I don't think there was a vision with Zach Wilson, especially this past season in 2023. I see the vision. I understand what the Jets want to do on offense. And at times they're able to do it. And that's what's so infuriating, because I have no faith that the flashes that we see are ever going to actually be complete. I don't think we're ever going to see a complete Jets offense. We're sitting here. The Jets just lost by 6 to the best team in the NFL, at least statistically, through 4, now 5 weeks. The Vikings are a great football team, and the Jets lost by 6 in an international game. We should be like, yeah, honestly, pretty quality loss. But the issue is, again, I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel with the offense. I don't see it. I see what they want.
It was supposed to be Rodgers.
It was supposed to be Rodgers, but the issues extend so far beyond Rodgers that he can't save them. He can't fix the offense because he's not necessarily the issue. He's part of it.
Well, then this whole thing's a failure because he was supposed to fix the offense.
You're right. It is a failure. I agree with you. I mean, I'm not ready to say it's definitively a failure, but it's been a failure through last season. Obviously, Rodgers got hurt, and it's been a failure now through 5 weeks. I see what the Jets want to do, and at times it works. But I have no faith that they're actually able to pull it all together because I have no faith in the offensive coaching staff.
And I get this being like an O-line and a play calling kind of thing, but let's also look at Rodgers. Beyond 10 yards in the air today, he was 3 of 17 with 207. 3 of 17, Justin.
Dude, his ball placement was off. This was the worst game he played. By far the worst game he played this season.
But that's now 2 in a row. Let's look at the 2 in a row where he's been pretty bad. The Denver game too.
Yeah, I don't think the Denver game was as much on. This was more on him, in my opinion. But again, you're asking
right, but still not what they were expecting.
I agree.
San Francisco, mostly not his fault, but again, not particularly. He left some meat on the bone, I think, is a way to do it.
Agreed.
He needed luck to beat a horrible Titans team, and then he had the domination. If he didn't dominate New England, even if they win that game, if he didn't play that well. What's the narrative without that game?
The narrative is honestly still the same, but I don't think the narrative is necessarily accurate. I think going into this game, Aaron Rodgers had been a top 12-ish quarterback in football this season. This knocks him down a few pegs. He was bad today. But I also don't think, and everyone's throwing out he's washed, he's 40 years old. I don't think the Aaron Rodgers issues are physical. I mean, yeah, he's banged up. That definitely didn't help him today, and part of that is because he doesn't have the escapability that he once did. But the arm strength's still there. The arm talent is still there. I don't really think the physicals are that bad. I don't think he's washed. He had a bad game. He had a couple of bad quarters. Unfortunately, the offense around him is terrible too. And it shouldn't be because they have the talent to not be terrible. Garrett Wilson, you said this when we were talking about it during the game. They're using Garrett Wilson like Jarvis Landry. I know we finally had a good Garrett Wilson game. You know, the Jets are the only team in the NFL this season without an explosive play on offense. They do not have a single explosive offensive play this season. The offense is just dink and dunk, try and survive with Aaron Rodgers not getting killed and have no running game.
That's by design because this is what Rodgers wants. So it has to be, right?
Whether it's what Rodgers wants, what Hackett wants, it doesn't matter. It's not working. It's not good enough.
Well, you can't. Well, that's the thing, though. Like, I can't even get, like, we know Hackett sucks. Like, we were saying that when they hired him, he sucks. But the entire reason they hired Hackett is because Aaron Rodgers gets to people complain. There's no motion. There's no creativity because Rodgers wants that. So when he gets to the line, he can kind of move guys around. And that's what he wants. So if you're out on Hackett, you have to be out on Rodgers.
Well, I think
you're not going to hire some 36-year-old McShanahan guy and have him boss Rodgers around. He's not going to do that.
I think there's two different discussions. There's discussions about Aaron Rodgers on the field, his performance, and then there's discussion about the offensive play calling, which we know Aaron Rodgers is factored into that discussion as well. Aaron Rodgers, his performance today wasn't good, and I think his performance throughout the year has been fine. He's been an average quarterback, I think, through about 5 weeks, but the offensive play calling has not been. The offensive, not even just the play calling. It's not just like individual plays. It's the entire design of the offense, Mike. It's
Rodgers
not good.
And that
early
Braylon Allen when Rodgers can't say, "Hey, let's just go quick hot, throw it." Like,
but you know what Rodgers can do in the second half, or I think it was the end of the first half. Vikings are showing 7 or whatever, and the Jets are in a 3rd and 8 situation. Rodgers doesn't. They line up with a long developing play. Rodgers doesn't check anything, and he gets sacked immediately. That's on Rodgers. That is 100% on Aaron Rodgers.
I know, and I just think there's more of that, like those throws that he was missing, like that. I don't care who your core. I don't care if they had actual Shanahan as the OC. I don't care if they had Mike Shanahan. That was not that was play where he left so many points on the board. I think his EPA was like -12 or something like that, -14 in a 6-point game.
It was a bad game. Obviously,
I just
6 tanks his EPA, but yeah, it was a bad game.
I just have more like there's more urgency where like the San Francisco game, like, all right, just kind of a bad average game. It's like, all right, whatever. Like I'm past that now. Like when we're getting better quarterback play than last year, certainly.
Of course.
And the last since Ryan Fitzpatrick of Jet, like it's certainly better than that. But like when's even limited Aaron Rodgers outside of New England? Where's Aaron Rodgers? Like that guy.
What's most frustrating is, again, it feels like the same way the Jets have been losing every single year under Robert Saleh. And to this point, we've been able to chalk it up to bad quarterback play. The defense plays lights out. They limit one of the best offenses in football. I mean, this is the worst the Vikings have looked all year.
But by a lot. I mean, Darnold was straight up bad.
Yes, he was. And it was by far the worst the offense has looked. I mean, Justin Jefferson caught 1 pass in the second half, and it was at the very end on a very important drive. But stop me if you've heard this story before, Mike. The defense plays lights out for most of the game, limiting a great offense while the Jets offense struggles. But the defense plays so well that it's able to keep the team alive and in the game. And then finally, once the offense finally starts to figure things out, and Rodgers just told reporters he has a low ankle sprain. Okay, so that
on top of the knee. Yeah, I thought honestly, like I thought he was like doing one of those like I'm gonna try. It's like when a manager fakes getting thrown out.
Yeah,
like rile up the team. Like he's gonna pretend he messed up his knee and then just go out there and throw touchdowns. To like, if I can, I literally thought he was doing that.
But as soon as the offense started to figure out, as soon as they strung together some drives and you needed a stop, you needed a quick defensive stop, what happens? The defense folds. And we're not going to blame the defense because the defense played lights out for 95% of the game. But it's the same story we've seen over and over and over again with this team. And the common denominator is Robert Saleh. The common denominator is this coaching staff. You could change the quarterback. You can bolster the offensive line because the offensive line, while it had its issues, is significantly better than it was last year. The skill position group is a lot better. The linebackers and corners are still playing out of their minds. The D-line is not that good, but they actually run defense was a lot better in this game. There is, by the way, a major difference between Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. That was one of my biggest takeaways.
Wow, yeah.
The drop-off from Aaron Jones to Ty Chandler. And also, Kevin O'Connell, I don't think Kevin O'Connell called a very good game. I think Kevin O'Connell
did not know.
But very questionable play calling against this Jets defense. Someone's like he hadn't watched what had been their weakness to this point. But it's just the same story over and over again. And that's what makes it so frustrating, because you see it. You see the defense play lights out for 95% of the game. And you're like, man, if the offense just figures it out, we got a chance. And then the offense figures it out, and then boom, scoring drive for the Vikings, long scoring drive. But the Jets, I can't fault the defense, because the Jets offense still had a chance to win this game. And it's just
here's the $1 million question. With an average coaching staff, do they win this?
Probably yes. Probably.
Even with 3 picks, including the picks, even with the same exact Rodgers game.
A below average offensive coaching staff, they win this game. A below average. Not even average. A below average. They have probably the worst offensive coaching staff in the league.
I don't even think that's in question anymore. I mean, Saleh, I think it's great defensive coordinator.
Right.
This defense is going to be good as long as he's here. But there's just something missing.
And again, it's just like, what's so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's so frustrating, because I look at this and I'm like, okay, the Jets lost by 6. There were signs of progress. The run defense was the best it's been all year.
Against a good offensive line, 4 sacks, and
right, against a good offensive line, a good running game. I know they lost Aaron Jones. That really hurt, and I'm not sure we're talking about the run defense playing well if Aaron Jones doesn't get hurt, but they still played really well. Pass rush, they got some sacks, but a lot of it, they weren't getting immediate pressure in a lot of the situations.
4 sacks is 4 sacks against that line. Like, it's not. I'm not putting it.
I'm more encouraged by the run defense, and then the secondary lights out. I know there were some. Again, we touched on it.
That one drive where Sauce got like 3 powers. That was
very questionable. Some very questionable calls, but for the most part, DJ Reed, excellent game. Isaiah Oliver played the entire game at nickel because Michael Carter got hurt in pregame warmups apparently. And I don't know what's going on with that, but Isaiah Oliver stepped in and played the entire game at nickel. Brandon Echols comes in for Sauce Gardner and does what he does. He makes a play. He gets an interception. I don't think Brandon Echols has missed a turnover opportunity in his life. Man is a turnover machine, and maybe he should be playing more just because of that. Maybe make Brandon Echols the 6th defensive back if they want to do that, like the dime back, or the 3rd safety, whatever you want to say. But and that's what's frustrating, because you see that stuff and it's like, oh man, and then the offense has its moments, but I just know they can't put it all together, Mike. I know it's a tease. I'd rather they got blown out, because I wish this game was just a disaster from the start and it never got better. I wish it was just 34-0 instead of 23-17, because now I don't have hope, but I've seen what it could be. And I know they're not going to get there.
Well, the thing that you're saying this about a team that has Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, that's the alarming part.
Because you could put it like you could put Aaron Rodgers on the Jets, and I hate to do this. I hate to just minimalize it to this. You could put Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. They're still the Jets. And that's what sucks. It's like putting makeup on a pig. Like that's that phrase. That's literally what's happening right now. And obviously Aaron Rodgers is not Hall of Fame level Aaron Rodgers at this stage, but he's still a good quarterback, even if he had his mistakes today. The Jets.
Funny how people always go like, "Oh, sell the team." I'm like, "Oh, the Panthers fans asked for that. Look how
it's change it. It's not going to change it. It's like they're cursed.
You're going to buy another 60-year-old rich guy. These guys aren't like,
Yeah. So somebody explained it on Twitter. This was the Ginger on Twitter, and I saw this tweet earlier, and I wanted to bring this up because I knew it was gonna apply to this. The Jets have this weird paradoxical curse on them where everything works as it's not supposed to, and the near most illogical outcome almost always occurs. That's the Jets. That is the New York Jets, like to a T. And I don't know if it's Robert Saleh. I don't know what it is. It's just this football team.
I'm kind of like over the, like not over Rodgers, but I mean like if
I'm more down on the coaching staff. Like I'm not over Rodgers,
but he's tied to the coaching staff, isn't he?
He is. But
then there you go.
Sure, but performance on the field, I'm not over Rodgers. Rodgers has not been the reason the Jets are 2-3 this year. He's not.
Let's go see what you guys are thinking in the comments. We got some nice active chats on YouTube and Facebook. Feel free to make your message heard. It may end up on the screen.
Let's go home to the start here. Just Enzo said, glad to see some people talking today. Need to blow off some steam. That's what we're doing, man. This is event session. Whenever the Jets lose, it's event session. When they win, it's a celebration.
Brandon R. I want to see offensive plays that go beyond 10 yards down the field. They tried 17 times there in Rodgers. He completed 3 of them.
Yep. Too bad.
He got picked.
You're not getting it with this offense. Too bad. The Jets have zero explosiveness, and part of that is also because
part of that's Rodgers too, right? He had opportunities for big plays.
100% part of that is Rodgers. Rodgers had multiple opportunities for a big play. Rodgers had multiple opportunities to win the game today. He didn't do it, and part of it again is also somebody mentioned Breece Hall. Brees Hall's not the Brees Hall we saw last year. He's just not the home run hitter.
Something's up. It's got to be physical.
He looks slow, and I hate to just be like, oh, eye test. He looks slow. He really does. He's not hitting the hole with the same urgency that he did last year.
That's also part of brand. I want to see a semi-competent run game. Like
you can't. Apparently.
Braylon Allen's a 20-year-old rookie, and Brees Hall, something's up with him.
And the run blocking.
That's who you got. Tough luck.
And the run blocking has been bad too. It's an all-encompassing issue.
Jacob Quarter again. We will probably miss the playoffs and look back at this or the Broncos game and wish we could have had one back. I think you underestimate the ability of this team to inflict more pain on you.
They'll have more of these.
They get Buffalo coming up soon. You think that'll be?
But
that'll be fun.
We know the Jets are going to win more games. Like they're too good of a team. They're too talented of a team to go 3-14. Like they're going to win more games. They're going to finish 7, 8, 9 wins, probably somewhere in that territory. But it's just not good enough, especially with this roster, especially when you're trying to save everyone's jobs and you're all in.
Jacob, again, don't forget the incorrect number of blockers, and Rodgers got sacked in the second quarter. Like
that's Rodgers.
I get being watched physically, but like he's making like almost mental mistakes that you don't make.
And that's why I'm like, and people are like, Rodgers is 40 years old. What do you expect? That's not the issue. Like anyone saying that has not watched the Jets this year, they're not watching Aaron Rodgers because the issues have not been physical with him. It's mental shit like that where I'm just like, what's going on here? What's happening? And I have to point fingers at the coaching staff because what else could it be?
But he's also played quarterback for 20 years. Like he should know how to do that.
He should. No, it's his fault too. When I say I'm pointing fingers at the coaching staff, that's not absolving Rodgers of blame.
Yeah, like that's these aren't points where like Hackett's got to hammer it home. Like you got to do this, Aaron. Like that's just like stuff you do. It's just part of the job.
They had another delay of game. They ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive, but they had another delay in game on 1st and goal. That can't happen. That's on Rodgers.
JPS Cardi. I know you can't base everything off it, but they do not pass the eye test at all. They're a good quarterback in Tennessee away from being 1-4.
It's true.
We're also. This is how cruel life is.
Yep.
Mike Williams turning his head around and Greg Zuerlein making a kick from 4-1.
Exactly. That's the NFL. But unfortunately, bad teams find ways to lose these games.
And the Jets are a bad team. Brandon R. Jets aren't disciplined enough to run a nuanced offense that Rodgers wants to run. That's, I think, a fair way to.
You could argue that. Yeah. You could.
But also, Hackett was in Green Bay. I didn't see any. With worse players, they weren't just discombobulated. I know that this is Rodgers' system, but most of these guys, Lazard, Wilson, Hall, this is the second year under Hackett. So what's their excuse?
Who was the head coach, though? Who was the head coach in Green Bay?
Matt LaFleur. I know, but
the offense was not Nathaniel Hackett's offense. That's the major difference here is that this is Nathaniel Hackett and Robert Saleh's offense with no Matt LaFleur influence. Or it's Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers' offense with no Matt LaFleur.
They had the closest thing to Matt LaFleur, and then
they literally had his blood.
They didn't like Zach Wilson.
They had his brother. Not that Mike LaFleur is.
I'm sure. I know Hackett was for Rodgers. I guarantee, based on how he got along with Matt LaFleur, that he would have got along with Mike LaFleur.
Yes.
Would have figured something out.
I agree with you. I agree.
And then here we are again. Around and around we go. Lane Brandon. Rodgers is going to be hurt again with the amount of hits he takes. Well, he's already been hurt, twice?
Yep. He's got a knee and now an ankle.
Knee and an ankle and an Achilles, and he's old. Brandon, again, can't dink and dunk against a quality football team. That's all he got. Yeah. That's all they can do.
And it didn't work.
They tried to go deep. It didn't work. That's all he can do. Garrett Wilson has not been vertical at all this year.
No, Lazard is confusing to me. Why not? Why not?
Lazard, we've been singing his praises these first 4 games. He's been great. Very bad game today.
Yeah.
But he's not like a, vertical threat. And Mike Williams, for some reason, is just not in the game plan as much as.
And then they finally targeted him at the end. Then it was a miscommunication. I would not expect more Mike Williams targets after that.
Yeah. Rob Serafinowicz. Brees Hall hasn't fallen off a cliff. He's fallen into a bottomless pit. He has done very little this year, and that's a major problem. He's preaching to the choir.
Agreed.
And I don't know what it is, because the offensive line's a lot better than it was last year. This game notwithstanding,
he's facing fewer stacked boxes with worse production.
It doesn't make any sense, and he looks slower.
He does. It doesn't make sense. And the run blocking
Allen is not amazing, but he looks better. He looks like
the run blocking hasn't been good. It's not just Brees, but Brees has been independently bad of his situation. He has been very bad. And it is a major problem because that's a guy we talked about as a top 2 or 3 running back going into the year. And now he looks like a guy who shouldn't be starting. That's a major, major problem.
No, not just us, a lot of people.
Yeah.
talked about that.
Absolutely.
MJ Jones, Robert Saleh needs to be fired. I mean, it won't change anything short term.
We could talk about that. Like we could talk. Mike, what would you think it would take for them to fire Robert Saleh midseason? Because I think it's going to take a lot.
It would have to take a blowout. Ooh. And as Justin leaves me to answer that question.
Yeah, we're back.
By myself. That was weird.
Dude, my internet sucks. Anyway, go on.
I was about to say, what is this, like the oral exam for the SAT? You put me on the spot here? Or?
Quick second, my internet just cut out. All right, cool.
Okay, so
the Jets didn't like that I was talking about Robert Saleh.
Yeah, all right, yeah, they're sniping us. It would have to take, I think, a blowout loss, either a blowout loss or one of those games last year where it was like 24-3 and they don't do anything. It would have to be one of those against a division, like the Patriots, the Bills, Miami. It would have to be against one of those teams or in primetime if they get smacked like 41-0 in primetime. And
it has to be down the line because it's not going to be next. Like if they got blown out by the Bills on Monday, they're not firing. Something.
Yeah, they're not going to. Yeah, it's not going to be that. And then they play the Steelers after that Sunday night. Maybe that's.
They got to be like if they're like 2-7, I think they consider it. But even then. If they're
2-7, they're probably just going to abandon this whole thing. They're not going to bring Rodgers back. They're not going to, So
and that's the thing. Once you fire Robert Saleh, you have now admitted that this is a failure, and you've admitted that this regime, that this current group that you have, is not getting it done. It means you are going to fire Joe Douglas or just not extend him at the end of the year. It means Nathaniel Hackett's gone, and it very likely means Aaron Rodgers is gone as well. So it's not as simple as just fire Saleh right now. Once you fire Saleh, you are admitting it's all over.
That's the point that's driving me crazy, like with some of these Jets fans here, is they act like, well, if we keep Aaron Rodgers but get rid of everything else around Aaron Rodgers, it'll be fine. It's like this was designed.
Right.
This is how they designed it for Aaron Rodgers with his input.
Yeah.
Because he probably said, hey, I want Hackett. I want this. I want that. And they listened to him. They did it with Peyton Manning in Denver, and it worked. They did it with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and it worked. We're doing it with Rodgers here. It's not working. And Tampa Bay's not some great franchise, but it worked.
Do you think there's any world where they demote/fire Nathaniel Hackett midseason?
No. Because I think Rodgers is basically the coach too.
I think there's a world where they strip him of play calling duties and Todd Downing takes over. I think there's a world where that happens. And
that might be worse.
What's wild about it is I think in that world, Nathaniel Hackett remains the offensive coordinator and doesn't call plays. And then they have the pass game coordinator, Todd Downing, call plays. I think.
And then Rodgers also doing his thing. Right. No wonder everybody's out of sync. They get three different offenses.
I think there's a real chance that could be a scenario that happens, which is just, it speaks to the state of the coaching staff right now and who's actually calling the shots.
Maybe that's the problem. Like, all right, here's a theory. Walk with me on this.
All right.
Like, we know that Rodgers has a ton of influence over Hackett's offense. Is part of it because, like it or not, Nathaniel Hackett is trying to run an NFL off. These are the plays I want to run. These are the concepts I want to execute. Guys go into games expecting that, and then on the fly, Rodgers will change things exactly to his degree, and then everybody's discombobulated. Is that part of it? Because they basically have, here's what Hackett wants to do, here's what Rodgers wants to do. Sometimes they overlap, and sometimes they don't.
Well,
so you basically got to prepare for here's what Nate wants to do, here's what Aaron wants to do.
Look, I'm going to be real. You know who helps fix that, Mike? Devonte Adams.
Yeah, I almost don't want him to.
Devonte Adams.
He's not fixing that.
I know. I don't want to bring up going all in or trading for Devonte Adams after a loss like that, but Devonte Adams helps fix that. And if the issues on the offense are partially communication related and partially Aaron Rodgers not being on the same page with his receivers, Devonte Adams helps fix that. And I'm not going to say that, that fixes everything. And I don't think it would by any means. And I don't think the Jets win the Super Bowl if they trade for Devonte Adams. So maybe just don't, why even do it in the first place? But I think it helps. And I think it makes the situation better.
Bill Gerlach, the plan was to load up with talent to cover it for Saleh. Still can't. Well, then that's a horrible plan. If you think you don't have a coach who can win and you keep him on purpose, that's a problem. The problem with the Jets is they think Nathaniel Hackett's a good coordinator and they can win with Aaron Rodgers.
Here's
that's
the
problem.
Do they think that? Do they actually think that, or do they just have to keep him around? Well, I think Robert Saleh, deep down, because he would never publicly, privately ever admit this because he's too nice of a guy and he likes people. I think he thinks Nathaniel Hackett's a good dude. He likes him. He's a friend of his. I think deep down he knows that Nathaniel Hackett is not an NFL caliber offensive coordinator. I truly, because he's
willing to get fired because of that.
What's he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? If Aaron Rodgers refuses to if he knows he's going to piss the fuck out of Aaron Rodgers by firing him, what's he supposed to do? It's Aaron Rodgers' call.
Is he going to retire in the middle of the season, Aaron Rodgers?
No, but do you want to piss off Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback?
Well, he's not pissed off now because he has Hackett, and that's not working.
I think it's an unspoken thing right here. I think it's an unspoken thing. But maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Mike. Maybe he should just – I mean, it's also not probably all up to Saleh. It's an organizational decision to fire Nathaniel Hackett. In reality –
that's where I feel bad because it all gets pinned on him, and a lot of it's on him.
Yeah.
But not all of it, and then he's got to take all of it. Especially coming from some Jets fans who honestly, they want Aaron Rodgers to be good and they want him to be the guy. So no matter what, it's not going to be, it's always O-line play calling, coaching. Like, we've all done that dance with every young quarterback that's not working. Like, they're going to do it with Rodgers. And Saleh is at fault for a lot of this, but like Rodgers threw the ball directly to the Vikings twice.
Yeah.
Like, no, Kyle Shanahan would fix that.
This is the lowest I think I've ever felt. I felt about this current Jets coaching staff. We have sat here and defended Robert Saleh for years. We have been two strong defenders of Saleh. We were strong defenders of Mike LaFleur. It takes a lot for me to say fire this coach or I'm out on this coach. I'm very close to being out on this coaching staff. I'm this close to just conceding and being like, I am confident the Jets are not going to win with this coaching staff. I don't think I'm fully 100% there, but I'm like 95% of the way there. And if they put out a stinker again against Buffalo and it's the same thing against the Bills, cool. And even if they're good against the Bills, even if they win that game, it's not pull me back in. Show me you could do it 2 times in a row, because that's another thing the Jets have struggled to do under Robert Saleh is stack positive results. Win 2 games in a row. Have 2 good games in a row. They really struggle to do that, especially on primetime.
We got another one from Milk D109 Lib. That's a big mess of letters there in the username. Despite a bad OC, O-line coach, and head coach, I think everything is going to be all right despite them. We have to stop throwing the ball to Lazard. Lazard's the only one on the right page with Rodgers.
Apparently.
We're using Garrett Wilson like Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, like Jarvis Landry.
He's the only one. And Mike Williams, they throw him twice a game. Lazard's the only other guy.
Garrett Wilson.
Conklin, who got hurt.
Garrett Wilson is turbo Wan'Dale Robinson right now.
He shouldn't be, but that's how
he should be. I'm not saying his talent is that. I'm saying the way he's utilized in this offense is turbo Wan'Dale Robinson.
Which is a damn shame.
It is a damn shame.
They have to establish the run. They're trying.
They
often to their detriment, they try so hard and they can't.
They tried. They maybe could have tried a little bit more today. They did end up throwing 54 times. I would have liked to see them run a little bit more. Game script ended up calling for more passing because they were trailing by 17 points. But I agree. They're the offense. Ultimately, the offense is not going to find success if they can't run the ball. Like we can sit here and point to various things with the coaching staff, whatever. If they cannot find a way to run the ball, if they have the worst running offense in the NFL, which they're probably bottom 5 right now in that category, I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but I'd be surprised if they ranked above bottom 5 in yards per carry per attempt, yards per attempt. But if they can't run the ball, they're not fine.
Game, they're 27th.
Yeah, 27th. And it's going to be worse.
Rams, Bears, Giants, Raiders, Cowboys.
I don't know if that includes today's numbers. It's probably even worse after.
It doesn't, but it's much worse now. So they're
worse today because what did they average? What did they average on the ground?
They had 91 a game.
Today they had 36 rushing. They averaged 2.6 yards per carry today. 2.6 yards per carry. Yeah, and that's a perfectly standard game for them this season. That's not like out of line.
And then we got a couple more I want to get to. Jacob Corder, do you think Douglas will be fired? I mean, if they don't it's basically a playoff mandate, and I don't think they're making the playoffs, so yeah.
Technically, no, because he just won't be extended. He is not under contract next season. The Jets can just let him walk whenever, they'll let him walk at the end of the season. They'll part ways with him, whatever wording they'll say. He's not going to be fired. But, yeah, if the Jets don't make the playoffs this season, he's gone. And
the only thing to hang his hat on is he's got that 2022 draft class. 2 of them are regressing. One of them has been good, but not like the best in the league this year, and the other one blew his Achilles out. So that's the only class you're holding on to.
I mean, I don't think it's the only thing. Like, we could sit here and talk about Joe Douglas for a while. I think Joe Douglas has done more good than bad for the team, but it doesn't matter if the results aren't there.
He tried. I mean, with Rodgers, he tried.
He tried. I don't think Joe Douglas is a bad general manager. It's rare to see GMs get a second chance. I mean, Tom Telesco is doing it now with the Raiders, but it's rare to see a team get a GM get a second chance. I think Joe Douglas deserves a second chance. But I don't know, man. I think he's done a lot of good with the roster. Unfortunately, If you're not winning, if the results aren't there, does not matter.
And then Brandon R. again, if the Jets fire people, I feel like that triggers a rebuild and a fire sale. And you got to do that. And that also would probably mean
it won't be a fire sale. Like I don't think they're going to sell. They're not going to sell. They could lose every game from now until the deadline. Well, when's the deadline? What is it? It's a month from now. Yeah, they could lose 4 in a row, and I still don't think they sell players.
I don't think that either, but I do think that, like, if they miss the playoffs, which I think they will, I think everybody, and that'll be 14 years with no playoffs, and then you're not making the playoffs, year one of a rebuild, so that's 15 years of no playoffs.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Justin, is the only the Jet Press is the only fan-sided site to have never covered a playoff game.
True. This is true. I believe the Jet Press started in 2011 or 2010, late 2010. So they have never once covered a playoff. So it would have been 2011 is when they started. So 2011 is the first year of the Jet Press's existence. They're the only fan-sided site to never cover a playoff game. I don't know what that's like. No one has ever run the site knows what that's like.
It's just, and it's the most frustrating thing because for a while the problem was honestly the Jets never got good players.
Yeah,
now they have good players.
Yeah,
Tyron Smith doesn't look like Tyron Smith. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers. And, like, you can't explain stuff like that. I mean, age, but, like, not.
You can with some of it, coaching. If everyone looks worse than they were before they go to your team, that's coaching.
Don't worry. There's a 37-year-old offensive coordinator out there who has been he was an assistant wide receivers coach in 2019, and now he's going to lead the Jets to glory. Come on. Like, it's so. I will say this because there are, if you want to look at some positives, because we've been rightfully so overly negative. Man, that defense.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, it hurts me. Does it hurt worse this year or last year? Because last year they were better, but with Zach Wilson, even if they won games, you knew they weren't going to like make a deep postseason run. With this, they're worse, still good, but they're worse. And now they're like letting Aaron Rodgers down, despite the fact that the last couple games have been pretty good.
I think it hurt worse last year just because I knew going into every single week that the defense was going to be amazing and it wasn't going to matter. This year they've had their issues. But I mean, I know they only allowed 10 points to the Broncos. They were not good in that game. Specifically, the run defense was awful. The defensive line was terrible. The defense still has its holes and its flaws. But today they were as you could not ask the defense to play better. You could not ask them to be. They allowed one offensive touchdown, and it was a short drive, right? It was the C.J. Ham rushing touchdown. I believe it was the only.
Yeah, the other one was the pick six.
Yep, and it was a short field that they got the C.J. Ham touchdown on, I believe. The other one was a pick six. The others were just field goals. Two of which, by the way, two of those field goals were over 50 yards.
They did, and 4 sacks. Will McDonald, Leonard Taylor, who looked okay, all of a sudden.
Dude, Leonard Taylor had the best Jets pass rush rep by a defensive lineman in weeks. That was crazy. I know Will McDonald had a sack. It was another unblocked sack. A great play.
It reminded me of that Jermaine Johnson one against Josh Allen.
Yes, yeah, it did. Yeah,
it reminded me of that one.
Dude, I'm pretty sure, and this is not Will McDonald. It was a great play. I think 5 of his 6 sacks this year, he's not been blocked, which is crazy. But
still got to make the tackle.
Teams need to stop. I mean, I hope they continue to do it. Teams need to stop the naked rollouts where they leave him as the unblocked rusher because he's way too fast for that. And
they always say, "Oh, get around Will McDonald," and then they don't.
You could do that with Michael Clemens. You could do it with. By the way, the Jets D line, they got to stop playing D tackles at end. I know their edge rushers are bad. I can't see Solomon Thomas take another edge rush snap. I can't do it. And it's not working with Quinnen either. Don't do it with Quinnen.
I'll at least put it down to like it wasn't good, but again, you know what? They tried.
Sure, they're trying.
That's the thing too. This is how I know that like there's a difference between the defensive and offensive coaching staffs. The defense, mostly it's been good throughout Salah's tenure. Like once he got players, mostly the defense has been really good. I think that's fair to say.
We got a weird George saying there won't be any changes in that culture until its fan base admits that they're toxic.
Oh, yeah, it's our fault. Okay, sure.
It is our fault right here that the Jets are not a good.
Okay, guys, everything's great and sunshine and rainbows. And Justin, what was your favorite Aaron Rodgers throw today? I mean, I like the one.
I love the one where you.
Is that better? Is that better, George?
Oh my God,
you like that? Because that's the only way.
Oh my God,
I'm being honest to you, George.
You're scaring me. Stop. I particularly love the one where he had Garrett Wilson wide open.
Oh, it's Zach Wilson. It's Zach Wilson stuff. Okay.
Oh, is it? Oh, he's a Utah guy. Is he a Utah guy?
Yeah, it's Zach Wilson. He's having a ton of success sitting on his ass, doing nothing in Denver. You know who's had a better year in the NFL, me or Zach Wilson? It's equal. That's who's having the better year, George.
You are right in that there are positive takeaways.
Lost my goddamn mind for a second.
You are right in that there are positive takeaways from this game. And that's what I said at the beginning. That's what makes it so frustrating, because I want to be encouraged about those positive takeaways. But at the same time, I just know it's not going to matter. I know they're not going to be able to put it all together. I know that the flashes that we see on offense are fleeting, and it's not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to sustain it. I know that the defense, while they were amazing today, is probably going to have a letdown in the future, because I think the defensive line is still bad. They still don't have a pass rush. The run defense probably won't be as good this year. Maybe they figure something out. I don't know, but I just know that the signs of encouragement that we saw, it's not going to matter. And the only thing that matters is that they lost, and it's another L for them. It's another tally in the loss column. And that's ultimately what matters. And that sucks.
Rich Galasso, what did you think of Darnold? Bad
game.
First quarter, really good. Second and third quarter looked like bench worthy. Yeah. Then the fourth quarter, he made a singular throw, and they got a field goal. I guess that's enough, but I think
it was better than the numbers would suggest, because a lot of this, he was just kind of chucking it up and hoping to get penalties, and the refs were throwing it. So they got a lot of yards on those penalties alone, which were basically Darnold yards. But yeah, this was his worst game of the year, easily. The Jets defense was fantastic against them. I mean, DJ Reed, I thought, played another amazing game. Brandon Echols had the huge pick. Tony Adams, I thought, made some really, really nice plays. I think Tony Adams is kind of coming into his own this year. I haven't gotten to talk about that, but he's been good. I think he's been an above average safety this season, which it's another success story for whoever you want to say, Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas, whatever that is.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play?
Right, it's another success story that's unfortunately probably not going to matter.
So you want to do some looking forward?
Let's talk about it. Which, by the way, we will be streaming on Tuesday this week. Not
Wednesday. Yes, Tuesday. We both have weddings to go to. So.
Oh, you have a wedding as well? I didn't know that.
I have a wedding this weekend in California. Actually, I got to go to. So.
Mine's in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Cool. Look at that. We both have destination weddings to go to. Neither of our own, but we will be streaming live Tuesday at 3 p.m. We're not done yet. We're going to talk about the upcoming game, but yeah, just as a little scheduling note.
Now they got to go play Buffalo
Monday night
at home on Monday Night Football.
Bills on Monday night again. Xavier Gibson's time to shine.
Now apparently they're getting beat up by Houston right now, which that might change later. But at time of writing, at 1:58 p.m. Eastern.
I also saw that my star wide receiver Nico Collins on my fantasy team is injured and has a hamstring injury, and that. I already had Aaron. I had Aaron Jones as well. So
I have Stephon Diggs, so maybe that'll.
It's not a good week for me.
That'll boost me. Yeah, certainly not. I started Breece Hall in my guillotine league. I'm worried about that now. So
skill issue. That's a you problem.
So Buffalo, I know that they lost a blowout to Baltimore. They look like they figured it out. The Ravens.
Yeah, they do.
And I know that they're not. I know that some of the warts where you're like, how is Josh Allen overcoming these things? Now he's starting to overcome them less.
Dude, Josh Allen right now, at the time of me speaking, is 1 of 9 for 24 yards. CJ Stroud, 9 of 9, 164 yards.
10 of 10. You just put another one.
10 of 10. Jesus Christ.
So I get that, but Buffalo, I think, is going to win the division. Now, the Jets have the benefit of Miami. I know Tua's going to come back, but that's even in question. I don't even know. We got to wait and see what happens with Tua after all those concussions. New England looks really bad, so they can beat up on them there. Mm-hmm. But Buffalo, I think, is still going to win the division. I think Buffalo's a better team right now. Josh Allen's not going to go 1 of 9 for 24 yards to start off against the Jets, even though the Jets have kind of been defensively his kryptonite for whatever reason. I still think the Jets are staring down a 2-4 start, which is a shame because Zach Wilson did not start off that badly. And Rodgers has been better than Wilson, but by a lot. But you also got Aaron Rodgers to improve upon last year's results, and that's not happening. I know that there's reasons for it, but Aaron Rodgers very rarely is in charge of a 2-4 football team. I don't know if he's ever gone 2-4.
I don't know. It's probably happened.
Maybe if he was a backup in Green Bay. I don't think he has. But, of course, comes to the Jets, immediately blows his leg up, and then 2-4. Awesome.
And there's a real chance that we're talking about that Bills game as the debut of Devonte Adams. I still think that there's a real chance that trade happens. I'm not thinking I don't think it's inevitable like some have suggested. I think there's other teams that are still clearly in his market, but it seems like Adams wants the Jets. I'm not sure why he does at this stage, but he clearly wants the Jets.
No,
I mean, I know why he does want the Jets, but I'm just, I'm speaking. He shouldn't. He should not want to go here because I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback next year. So, but yeah, I mean, looking ahead, it's another situation where I have no faith in the coaching staff because the Bills are a much better, much more well-coached team than the Jets, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I don't have a lot of faith. I mean, granted, now the Bills are getting rocked right now by the Texans, and they got rocked last week too. So maybe it's trouble in Buffalo. I mean, they've completed one pass so far at the time of me speaking, but I don't know, man. I'm not
figure it out. It's the Jets. I'll figure it out.
I'm not confident at all going into that game because even if the defense plays lights out, am I confident that the Jets offense is going to be able to string together positive possessions and scoring drives? Not really, because we've seen them do that precisely once this year.
Especially because if you look at the Bills' defense, you know what their strength is? Secondary.
Yeah, their secondary is really good.
Hard to throw on them. Now, Baltimore runs Derrick Henry at 200 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I don't think Breece Hall is going to get 200 yards rushing. Call me a pessimist. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know when he might not get 200 yards rushing until week 12 at this rate. I have no idea.
A couple comments again I want to address. Brandon R. Devonte at least speaks Rodgers' language. Apparently he's really important in this offense. I don't want a Favre repeat where we play an injured guy the whole year. Favre, to his credit, started out 8-3.
Favre was really good.
Favre was really good, and then he didn't want to jeopardize the start streak, and he played hurt and got. But
the team was better around him too. The offensive line was sure better. That's for sure.
Certainly, yes. Rob Norwood.
And they had a goddamn running game. That 2008
had
a really good running game. Thomas Jones.
Norwood, Aaron is coasting and cashing checks. That is not true at all.
Dude is getting beat up. Get out of here.
For all we said about Aaron Rodgers, he is a tough SOB.
Yeah.
I'll give him that because he takes a licking and he keeps playing. I could have said keeps on ticking for the slogan, but nah, I chose to ruin it. I'm not paid by Timex here. Sponsor us, Timex, and maybe I will.
Say a lot about this game and how the Jets lost it. It was a gutsy performance by a lot of players in that team. Rodgers battled through injury. Sauce Gardner battled through injury. He came back. Tyler Conklin battled through injury. There's so many guys out there were really hurting, and it was clear. So I don't want to question the toughness or effort, anything like that. Rodgers is definitely not coasting and cashing checks. He's getting beat up every single week and trying. It's just not working.
Our nemesis here, George Mulatto. Look at the bright side. They fire Sala and Douglas. That sets them back another 5 years. What set back from where? They're bad now.
Right.
They've been bad. What do we set back? From what positives do we have? We got Aaron Rodgers. Okay.
What's the alternative? You keep them for another 5 years? What's the alternative?
Yeah.
It's not like guys. It's not like this is a quick turnaround. It's not like the Jets are like just firing guys left and right. They've had an eternity, Sala and Douglas, to figure.
Not every coach gets 4 years. Joe Douglas got 6.
Especially when they've lost every single one of those years. They've not had a single winning season under Joe Douglas.
It's 6 years.
6 years.
And they've had probably one good draft class, 2022?
Yeah, one good draft class, and then others. There were some hits and some misses, more misses than hits.
Great resume. I think we're gonna wrap it up right about there because we don't have any tears left to shed. The Jets are 2-3. They're gonna go play the Bills on Monday night. I will imagine it will probably not go very well, barring unless Buffalo just keeps stinking it up, which I don't think they will. I don't think it'll go particularly well. I don't think we're gonna see Packers Aaron Rodgers again. So now, not only do you get Jets losing, but you get Jets losing off the back of expectations, which is worse. Last year was more fun than this. Because last year it was all house money. And every positive they did was like, oh, can you believe this? That they won 7 games? Like, you felt like that Eagles game. Like, they weren't going to contend. And then, so that made it feel better. Like, holy crap, how did we do this? Now we're supposed to win games and we can't.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking forward to it.
Expectations are the enemy, Mike.
Keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed.
That's the Jets motto.
Kratos said that. That's not like some philosopher.
Sure, that wasn't Fire. I thought Fireman Ed said that. I thought that was Jets fans.
No, it's a guy from a video game. But you can find us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. You can laugh at us or mourn with us or whatever the hell it is you crazy subscribers do. if you want to join that cavalcade, you can subscribe and like and do all that good stuff. That's how you can support the show for free. We're not taking a nickel out of you, and you can support the show still. Justin, any final thoughts on post-mortem? What the hell happened here?
The Jets are not a very good football team. They're not the worst. They're not the best. They're somewhere in the middle. They're fine. They're mid. And honestly,
what you're really stepping out there with that take.
Listen. And no, I was getting somewhere. Relax. And honestly, being a mid team when they went all in, and this is 6 years of rebuild to get to a mid team with this roster, might as well be bad. They might as well be a terrible team because I'd rather them be that level than be a 7-win team with this roster. But knowing the Jets in typical Jets fashion, maybe they beat the Bills on Monday night and maybe the narrative completely shifts. That's just how this organization works. That's how this team works. We'll get into more of the specifics, the actual breakdown of the game instead of just a vibes-based breakdown when we talk about the Bills game on Tuesday. Normally we stream live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. This time it'll be Tuesday. As we mentioned before, we both have weddings to go to, so be sure to tune in then. Thank you all for joining us on the show today. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Luciano. Follow me on Twitter at Justin T. Freed. Follow the Jet Press at the Jet Press. Download the Jet Press podcast wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, like, hit that notification bell. You guys know what to do. We stream live normally every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. This week we'll be streaming live Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all for listening to Jet Press Podcast. And thank you all, everybody commenting, everybody who listens and just tunes in. It is always, always much appreciated. We love just being able to vent and talk Jets with you guys. I've been Justin Freed. That is Mike Luciano. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys on Tuesday for our special Tuesday show. Let's see if we're going to be feeling good coming back from these weddings. Let's see how quickly our mood gets dashed once they play the Bills.